Hello, how's it going? I'm here outside under the trees and by the water because I figure what better place to do a video about breathing than next to the trees who I share a very important part of my breath with. I exhale, they inhale, they exhale, I inhale. It's a nice setup we have here. And then the water's just nice because it flows the way I would like my breath to. So today I'm going to talk about pranayama, the breathing practices in yoga. Is one of the 8 limbs as described by Patanjali, the sage. So many of us know about asana poses. They're very common now, common knowledge. And a lot of times you do the pranayama with the asana practice. But you can also do them separately, and in some cases they are taught separately. And I have learned them separately. The Iyengar tradition typically separates them. And I think this comes from the fact that BKS Iyengar had a lot of illnesses when he was younger, specifically tuberculosis, that had weakened his lung health. And so he wasn't even expected to practice pranayama. They told him he wouldn't be able to. And of course he was like, yes, I can. And practiced very diligently and ultimately split. He got his body through asana prepared to do the breathing. So that was his experience. And so that is why it's taught the way it is. That's what I understand anyways. And so I find it very useful as well. I incorporate the two when I practice and I breathe, but I also do my breathing practices solo, especially some of the more complicated ones. But today I'm going to start with a very basic, one of the foundational breaths called Ujjayi breathing, and it translates as something like victorious breath, right? So it's a very powerful breath that helps you get to know your lungs and the muscles that also support your lungs, so your diaphragm, your intercostals, like the glottis muscle in your throat. And these muscles are very important, just like the rest of your muscles in your body. They need to be toned and they need to be pliable to really use the full capacity of our lungs, which most people don't. Like a lot of people only breathe up in the chest, which is very anxiety inducing. And when you breathe in through the nose, it's just it doesn't go very far. So with this breath, you can very much expand into the entire vessel of the lungs. Like these organs are huge. They come all the way down. Like if you go down to your low ribs near your hips, near your pelvis, they go way down there. They come way up here, and then they're 3-dimensional, like big balloons. So we want to make sure that we are using our lungs and keeping them healthy. And nice deep breaths also keep this part in check. So I'm going to start you off with some basic things today. I like to use a strap. You can use a belt, like for your pants if you have one. And then I've got a little blanket. You can use a towel or a blanket. I'm going to show you a variation with that. So the methods that I teach in come a lot from adaptive yoga. Matthew Sanford is my teacher, and he was certified by Mr. Iyengar as an Iyengar teacher. And so a lot of his methods reflect this type of lineage. And props are a big part of that because reference creates contrast, which draws the mind into that space. So if there is a lack of awareness in certain parts of the body, which there are, right? We have lack of awareness in all kinds of things. This allows us to get closer and more in tune with these subtle aspects that can be so powerful and so transformative in our experience. So I'm going to have the strap here, and I'm going to tighten it a little bit and bring it over my head and shoulders. So my diaphragm connects down into the lower parts of the ribs. It's like a dome, like a little beanie hat, if you can imagine, and it attaches all the way down, and then there's like this space in the center that goes around the spine. It's really cool. You should look it up. Look up a picture of your diaphragm. Then I'm going to tighten the strap, but only just tight enough to hold on. I don't want to squeeze myself to death. Just so it'll stay in place, because I'm going to use my lungs to expand into it. So that's good. And as I take a breath, I already feel it. So the way we work with the Ujjayi breath, you've probably done this many times. If you whisper, "Hello, how are you today?" Right? You feel your throat go. That's part of that muscle that we need to use, we need to find. Also, if you fog a mirror, you can feel the breath moving down there. You really have to draw that breath up, and that's your diaphragm helping you out. Coughing does it. There it is. So we use the breath in this manner. So I'm going to close my lips though, and I'm working it in and out of the nose. So as I inhale, I'm going to exhale through my mouth, closed mouth. You hear that? The breath just got pushed to the back of my throat. Sounds a little bit like the ocean, sometimes they say, in your ears. Okay, so there's that. The trickier part is getting the inhale. So reversing it. And if you do it too hard, it'll make you snore. We don't want to snore. So as you inhale, it's a softer inhale through the nose. Feel that muscle constrict. Just enough to push the breath to the back of the throat and feel it moving deeper down into your towards your belly. Down. So inhaling and exhaling. And at some point, at least in the Iyengar tradition, you end up not moving your belly. You really work through the lungs. Other ways of teaching it may tell you to take it down to the belly. But today, I'm just going to let you do whichever feels comfortable. We can always go into it deeper at other times. So, as we breathe, notice where your strap tightens when you inhale. And then notice where it doesn't. So usually the front body is easier to have awareness of because our eyes are up here. So with the strap in your back, you can tell your mind, okay, I'm going to try and move it into the back. And when you feel that resistance, you know that you've done it. And then maybe the side ribs. There it goes. And wherever you don't feel like you're connecting, it's cool. Just keep practicing, right? Little by little. It just means that these spaces in the body haven't been awake or used with any type of intention in a while, but we can change that. So this could be your practice. This is your pranayama practice. You can sit up and do it. If sitting cross-legged is not, doesn't allow your spine to be straight, then get in a chair and sit at the edge of a chair and make sure your spine is straight, your shoulders are relaxed, and the chin is moving back and down a little bit. So we want this to be soft. If you're trying to breathe with the neck muscles tense like that, is not fun. It doesn't feel good. And so the other aspect of this is the mind. So if your mind is really getting irritated, like this is just frustrating, take a break. Go back to normal breathing, let it go. It's not worth agitating your mind, trying to force your breath. Eventually, we would like this to be very subtle and effortless, just like our asana practice, where it's a pleasure to breathe. And as we get really good at this Ujjayi breathing, and good, I mean comfortable, you feel really smooth and you're able to move the breath around, there's lots of interesting things we can do with it. And then I will teach you Viloma 1 and Viloma 2. These two breaths, which are segmenting and pausing the breaths, really strengthening the ability of the breath, of the lungs to hold and expel air. But we are not going to do that until we get really comfortable with the Ujjayi breathing. And the great thing about starting with this is you can do it anytime. You can do it lying down in bed, in Shavasana, you can do it during a practice, you can do it driving in the car, although it might relax you a little bit too much, so be careful with that one. But just practice it and use your belt, and once you get used to the belt, you may not need the belt anymore. Now the one thing I will say, if you are having a problem really accessing the back body, even through the belt, then you can take your towel or your blanket into your belly and do child's pose. All right, so I'm going to take my blanket, and that's going to move. I may take the belt off though, that's too much. All right. Or I'm just going to loosen it for now. Okay, so what happens is my belly gets pushed back, and so the back body's stretching in child's pose. And it becomes quite easy to take a breath into the backs of the lungs. So that's another option. Still using the Ujjayi breath. Okay. And then the last little nugget is a hissing breath, and this is good. So if you find that exhaling is a little harder, which can be, especially people with asthma and things like that, we can tone these muscles through a hissing sound. So it sounds like right through your teeth and like powerful. You want to, and you'll feel instantly this lift from the base of the lungs. And sometimes I take my hands on my ribs and even try to encourage them to. Okay, so that's a different breath. You could inhale normally, and then and really feel that power on the exhale. So those are a few tips you can work with to get your breathing practice really solid. And as always, remember, if it's ever agitating your mind, just take a break, right? There's plenty of time to practice this. And keep your lungs happy and healthy, also keeping yourself calm and steady, right? Just like anything else, breathing takes practice. The fact that we do it every day is just a blessing and something we can easily take for granted. So I hope that this video will be helpful. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comment section, and I'll see you soon. Namaste.